Hello, welcome to the Why Do You Like podcast. Today's episode is going to be on the TV show Degrassi. I'm joined today by two people from the Degrassi subreddit. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
My name is Allie.
And my name is Jeff, aka Cutter Historical.
Okay, cool. So first off, why do you guys like Degrassi? We'll start with Allie first.
For me, I think most of it is that it's pretty nostalgic.
Uh-huh.
I watched it a lot in high school just by accident. It was on MTV, and when we finally got cable, it was something that was played constantly. So I watched it often, and just being a teenager watching a teen drama, and I don't remember there being a whole lot then besides like The Hills and set of reality shows, but
Yeah.
as an adult now rewatching it, it's totally nostalgic and entertaining for that reason.
What about you, Jeff?
Well, basically, Degrassi is a Canadian show, and I'm from Ontario originally. And when I was in high school, they actually started playing reruns of Degrassi High and Junior High from the 1980s on CBC, and then it basically got to the point that they decided to make Next Generation. So basically, when I was around the time Next Generation started, I was in high school myself, so I figured that this would be a nice way to talk about high school issues and all that. And I got into the old school Degrassi stuff and basically how they would transform into the Next Generation, and that's just about it.
Okay, cool. So you've actually seen like the old, like Degrassi Junior High and Degrassi High and all that?
Yeah, when they were basically playing those, like it was 5 days a week for a while, and then it got to the point that people wanted to see like a new Degrassi series. So in 2001, CTV decided to bankroll the show, and basically it was on for, what was it, 16 years afterwards. So yeah.
Yeah, I had gotten into it when I think it was like 2010 maybe. Teen Nick was doing a Every Degrassi Ever marathon. So now I watched every episode up until that point, and I was like, yo, this show is so goddamn good. So yeah. Who are you guys' favorite characters? We'll start with Jeff this time.
That's hard to say because, like, I don't really have one character. I can basically go the generational thing if you wish.
Okay, sure. Let's do like a favorite character from like the Emma generation.
From the next gen. But for me, well, I've kind of gotten close to Emma. I feel like she's the protagonist in the show, and basically I feel that, we would like to see stuff from her point of view. I mean, after all, she was Spike's daughter, and she was talked about constantly on the Degrassi Junior High and High stuff. But I really wanted to see Emma's character development, so I kind of get her development in all that. So.
What about you, Allie?
I really liked Emma. I liked that she was big into conservation and cleaning the ravine and stood for that kind of stuff. I also really liked Liberty. I felt like her character was different in that she wasn't super predictable. So she was nerdy and like really into like being a class president and stuff. But then she also had that bit where she struggled with a learning disability, and then they tackled some teen pregnancy with her, and then way later on stuff with dealing with racism. So I really liked Liberty a lot, and then I liked Spinner just because he was fun to watch.
Yeah, there's two ways to answer this question. There's like the characters that you like, but then there's the most entertaining characters. Where I feel like like Craig and like Spinner and then like Peter, they were like horrible people, but they had such entertaining plot lines,
Right. Yeah.
For my favorite character, I think I don't know, I really liked Miles towards the end. Like at first he was kind of a dickhead, and then like you saw him being like a good brother and shit. So I was like, you know what, this guy, he's a cool dude. I think he's one of the better actors on the show too. Who do you guys think had like the best performance on the show, or some of the best performances? We'll start with Allie this time.
That one's hard. I liked how Craig's character tackled things like his half sister and trying to continue a relationship with her, even though his dad didn't want him to continue a relationship.
Yeah.
Watching some of the bigger things that Craig's character tackled were interesting to watch, and I thought he did a really good job. I don't have experience with like bipolar disorder, but it was interesting to see how he seemed to really try and like make sure that community was represented in a way that was more understanding, and that it was. I just thought that he did a really good job representing that.
Yeah, I thought he did a good job. Like, you remember when he had his like episode? Like, yeah, like I remember feeling like it. I just remember it being like really like, wow, this is kind of like, it's like scary. What about you, Jeff? Who do you think has had really good performance?
For me, it's a couple of people. Like, I know that people might crap on like Spinner, but I mean Spinner's growing up process. Like in season 3, after Marco comes out being gay, you know, Spinner being anti-homo and all that. But you know, with a lot of time and understanding, and Spinner turns it around. Like he basically helps Marco out, try to find a guy and all that. And then, you know, I know that like season 4 Spinner, like he was in the group that tried to destroy Rick and all that. But I feel like Spinner was kind of had the guilty conscience, and you know, after accidentally getting Jimmy shot by Rick, I'm just thinking that Spinner, you know, had a problem with conscience, and we all figured out. We were like, does he tell on Jay and Alex, or does he basically just want to be with Jimmy and all that? And I mean, he got a redemption arc in season 5, and I think that was pretty good. A lot of people were crapping on season 5 in a sense, but I also think JT did some good work too, especially like later on in the next gen, season 5 and 6, you know, being with Liberty and the pregnancy thing and all that. I think he did a good job.
Yeah, I feel like Spinner, he definitely had one of the like larger like character arcs, because that spanned like over 2 seasons. Like in season 4, I was being a bully to Rick, and then like in season 5 when he rats on Jay and he's tells Jimmy the truth and all that. What are some of your favorite storylines? We'll start with Jeff this time.
For me, favorite storylines, like, are you talking next gen, like seasons 1 to 7, or are you talking in like past?
We'll just do next gen, but like next gen and new class or whatever. Like just the Emma generation, Claire generation, Maya generation.
Okay, that's cool. In all honesty, my favorite storyline, I know it seems like a dark storyline in the Emma generation being Time Stands Still, but for me, doing a lot of YouTube videos on the subject and all that, it got me thinking about little things and all that. I think Rick, aka Ephraim Ellis, did pretty well with his portrayal of stuff and all that. For Claire's generation, for me, I didn't really pay much attention to that generation as much as the older generation, but I would probably say that the Degrassi writers did pretty well in portraying, the Drew and Bianca thing, because Drew was conflicted with stuff, and with Bianca, and I think for my generation, I feel like when Zoe came out of the closet was my favorite storyline, because it was great and all that, and basically she was getting in touch with her feelings, and basically there wasn't much like disdain from the students about coming out of the closet as there were in previous seasons, so I thought that was good.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's kind of interesting about the show, is that like at the beginning, like when Marco comes out as gay, and then there's kind of this like there's a lot more homophobia back then, but then like later on when like characters like Zoe come out, there isn't as much, and it kind of shows like how like the real world kind of changed, but within the show too, because the show never really like stopped at that point, you know what I mean? So like at one point in the show's history, like people are a lot more homophobic, and then you see people get more accepting like as time goes on, But Allie, what are some of your favorite storylines?
I think so. Maybe this is a morbid storyline, but Spinner going through like what it was like to have cancer as a kid, like as like a young teen, and like figuring out like how to find strength within himself to get through it and still be okay, and watching Jimmy now come to the other side of like, you got to get through this, man. You're going to be okay. Look at all that I've done and what I've been through, and like you can do this. Going from their story where they were best friends, and then he hated him, they didn't get along, he said he was dead to him, like all that stuff, and then they kind of came full circle, and it was just kind of an interesting character development to watch happen between them. It's hard to think of just one storyline because there's so many on there too that are really really interesting.
Yeah, they gave Spinner like a lot of character stuff like on his time there. He's probably one of the most like developed characters in the show, I'd say, at least.
Right.
Yeah, and yeah, it's one of the like how him and Jimmy are kind of best friends like at the beginning of the show, and then like later on, like how they kind of like break up, quote unquote, when they're like not friends for a while, and then them kind of becoming friends again. Like I always thought that was really like that was really nice like character arc. You know what I mean? Just seeing them kind of end their time on the show, like still being good friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what are some of my favorite storylines? The Peter meth storyline was so crazy. Like, I remember I was just like, what the fuck is going on with this show? Like, he's literally just as meth. And then, this isn't really like a favorite thing, but it's just something that's interesting is how they make Claire go through so much on this show. Like, holy shit, by the time she graduated, she's like, had cancer, she had like a kid, or she lost a kid, like, she lost so much crazy shit happened to her. Like, I feel like if I was her, I'd be traumatized by the time I graduated high school.
Well, they kind of did that with her sister's character, too.
Yeah. Also,
Darcy.
I love how Darcy does not once visit her sister when she has cancer or all this stuff.
Darcy's gone. She's in Kenya.
Darcy is one of the better actors on the show, too. I feel like, I think there's a reason why her and then the actress who played Mia left to do like other stuff because they're two like way better than the other actors in the show, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, who is the worst main character on the show? We'll start with I think we did Allie last time. No, actually we did Jeff last time. So we'll do Allie this time.
I didn't love Peter. His character was like like the videotape he did of Manny, and like that did like he just kind of got grounded for it, and then the hitting the guy, and like I don't know, it just really bugged me. And then the meth thing was totally random. But yeah, I didn't love Peter.
Yeah, okay, he is one of the worst people on the show, probably. Like season 5 Peter is so bad, and then Emma just dates him after he did that to Manny. Like, oh my god, these so horrible.
Manny is like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. And like Manny's just like cool with him like a year later. Like they're like she's like not even like mad at him or anything. Like what? Those dumb teenagers. What about you, Jeff? Who's like the worst main character in your opinion?
There's a lot of people who have been bad, but have actually picked up some sympathy and all that. In all honesty, I can't really think of anyone who was really, really terrible in the Emma generation, other than, of course, Peter, as Ali said. But I would probably, well, I know Jay wasn't much of a main character. Well, before season 3, we got to know him in season 3, like from 3 to 7. Would he count?
Yeah, I think he counts because he gets certain like storylines and stuff.
Well, basically, if that counts, then yeah, I would say Jay. I mean, you got to look at the guy's rap sheet. Well, not literally, of course, but season 3. I mean, he basically gets Sean to join, and then for Sean to break up with Emma and all that because Emma's busy dealing with her problems, especially with Snake's chemotherapy and all that. And so basically, he convinces Sean to join his gang and all that, and Sean basically steals to appease Jay and all that. And of course, season 4, let's not forget that Jay's the one who told Spinner to blame Jimmy for the stuff that basically Spinner and Jay were guilty of, and that's how Jimmy got shot. And Jay didn't want to come back to the school because he said that basically the school needed a scapegoat. But Spinner confessed on his own accord. I mean, I know Jay got better, especially when he was with Manny and all that, and he helped Sean in season 6 when Sean got expelled and all that, but made him work at the auto shop. But yeah, I mean, he had a decent redemption arc, but I just can't get past the fact that Jay was such a villain in the Rick Murray situation.
Yeah, I love Jay being a gangster in like season like 3 or whatever. Like it's so cringy. Just this like white guy wearing like these like I guess like hockey jerseys. That's what they wear in Canada. I don't know, but yeah. And then didn't they have like boom boxes and shit at one point? So weird. But yeah, worst people. Zig is also a horrible person. Just cheats on like every girlfriend he gets, and then they always present him as like, what do you call it? Like a sad, like he does have like a sad storyline, but he's still like he was horrible before like they introduced any of the sad stuff. And he's so whiny too. Ugh. Oh, how do you guys feel about like Drake becoming just like so famous? Like he's like one of the most famous artists like in the world, and he came from the show. It blows my mind. We'll start with I just both you guys like. What are you guys' thoughts?
Well, I mean, I could speak for a lot of Degrassi fans when I say that we had no idea that Jimmy Brooks would end up being Drake. I mean, Jimmy had such a good storyline, and being in the wheelchair, but he was still there. He was still the major character. He was still hell-bent on trying to get himself back to the Jimmy he was before the shooting. But I mean, like, how were we supposed to know that it was going to be Drake and he would be such a popular star and all that? I mean, after all, Sinead Grimes and Nina Dobrev, or Darcy and Mia, to you and me, basically, they were pretty good after they left Degrassi. But I mean, like, how were we supposed to know Drake was going to be this superstar?
Yeah, it's really it's really weird because he's like by far the most famous person to ever be on the show. Yeah, but, like I don't think you would think that because honestly, he's not like the best actor or anything on the show either. But I don't know, like in real life, he does have a lot of charisma. So, what are some of the funniest moments in the show, in your guys' opinion? We'll start with we'll do Jeff this time.
Well, to be honest, I don't really look at Degrassi as being funny and all that, but I mean, a couple come to mind from the Next Generation days. Number one is basically JT's, JT ended up having some kind of sexual dream about Liberty in season 3, and basically, Toby tells everyone on JT and all that, and JT gets embarrassed. But for me, one of the most iconic funny moments in Next Generation was season 3 in that famous Saturday morning detention send-up of The Breakfast Club. Basically, Raditch is basically just playing with a Swiss ball, and Hazel had a watching pass, but Hazel saw him, and he looks at her and says, "It's a Swiss ball from Switzerland."
Oh yeah, I remember that episode. That episode is really funny because they have to like steal the keys and shit. Yeah, I like that episode. What about you, Allie? What are some of the funniest moments on the show?
There's one that sticks out. I think it had to be like the first season. Again, a story with Spinner, and he like starts dancing in front of the class. This is like young, kind of chunky, like early teen Spinner, and he's doing like an awkward like young kid dance. That one really cracked me up just because everybody at that point was just kind of young and awkward, and maybe not necessarily meant to be funny, but it was funny to watch these people that you watch become adults be awkward teens again and doing goofy things.
Yeah, one of my favorite moments was it's like towards the end of season 1. It's the episode where Jimmy is being kind of like clingy with Ashley. Like he keeps going over to her house and stuff. So then like the episode ends with basically like they break up, and then so Jimmy, he orders pizza and he says like, "Hey, yeah, Antonio, the usual, medium pepperoni." The implication being that he's so lonely and he orders pizza so much that he knows the pizza guy by name, and the pizza guy knows his order like exactly. It's just so like over the top cartoonish. But yeah, it's my favorite.
Yeah.
Me and my girlfriend, we legit like laughed about this for like a whole year after like we watched this episode. It was so funny.
And I do have to say the episode where JT brings ecstasy to Ashley's party, and they're like 12 years old, and somehow this kid randomly brings, and I know it's totally not a funny story, but it was like, he didn't even talk about this. Where'd this come from?
Yeah, it's funny when I think Sean gives them like Tic Tacs or something like that, and then they like think that they're high. That part's so funny.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Oh yeah. Are there any other shows you guys gotten into as a result of Degrassi?
Not as much. Like I spent a lot of time like breaking down Degrassi because it's a Canadian show, and basically that trying to get analytical with stuff and all that. So not really into other shows, to be honest.
What about you, Allie?
Not anything that I can think of that was directly from Degrassi. I guess I have thought of checking out like Vampire Diaries to see how Mia is and like that kind of stuff, but I haven't watched I haven't watched anything because I've watched Degrassi.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I watched 90210 because that had Darcy in it. And that show it's a perfect teen drama. There's like so much crazy shit that happens like every season. It's so good. Okay, so you know how like in the Next Generation, how there's sort of like three main characters. How it's like Emma for the first like 7-ish seasons, and then after she leaves, it's like Claire, and then after Claire leaves, it's Maya. Which one of these like generations within Degrassi Next Generation is your favorite? We'll start with Allie this time.
I liked Emma's generation or group the most.
What about you, Jeff?
Well, yeah, I would say the same, like Emma's generation, because I grew up with that generation being in high school and all that. So I got to know, like, you know, how the issues come by. I mean, like, I didn't deal with a lot of those issues personally, but like, you know, things can happen and all that.
Is there any storylines on the show that you think that the show handled like exceptionally well, or I guess vice versa, the show handled like pretty badly too? Is there anything you guys can think of? We'll start with Jeff this time.
Well, I think they didn't really handle the Frankie plot from Next Class season 2 that well. You know, to explain, Frankie and the volleyball team does this poster and all that, and then the other team protest about it, but because Frankie drew gorillas and all that, and it's kind of a racist thing, and Frankie doesn't really apologize. She basically tries to play like the victim and all that, and doesn't make a big response, gets kicked off the volleyball team, and basically, like, in the Degrassi Reddit, there's been a lot of posts recently about this whole thing, because, you know, we're in the social thing now, the cancel culture, but basically I feel like, you know, there could have been much more about the teachers and all that. I mean, like, Simpson didn't handle it too well, like suspending Tiny for just trying to protect, I think it was Shay or Lola. I think it was Lola, but like, yeah, like Simpson's reactions to what's going on and all that, it didn't seem plausible, and I feel like that, and maybe the Degrassi Newts thing from the Maya generation, like just at the butt end of Claire's generation, that might have been handled better and all that. But that's all I'm saying.
What about you, Allie? Can you think of anything?
I would have liked to have seen, kind of going off what Jeff said, but I would have really liked to see more about racism and kind of like the stuff that Hazel's like one episode was with her like really being Muslim, and then like while she was at school not treating the other Muslims at school with kindness, and then later with like what Liberty went through in college when they were just looking for like a token black girl. So it would have been really nice to see them tackle that more, just as, especially in like the later seasons and stuff, as that became more of something that people were more aware of. Maybe more on bullying, like it just seemed like they made it like bullying happened and bad things happened because of bullying, but maybe not necessarily always the best ways to handle it when you are being bullied.
Yeah.
And feeling like adults are not handling it with you, and like just basically had to go it on your own.
Yeah, that Hazel episode was really good, but it's really weird how like afterwards that was like the only episode she ever got. Like I don't remember a single other Hazel episode after that, but that was like a really good episode. But I think it's one of those characters that they created for the episode, and then they're like, oh wait, we have nothing else planned for this character, so we'll have her date Jimmy, and then I don't know what else she does. I
would have liked to see more of that kind of thing carried on, maybe as like a constant story arc in the background of everything, and it's been interesting.
One of the storylines I didn't think that they did super well was when I don't remember the exact season this was. It was when Tristan was like hooking up with the teacher, and then so like Maya I forgot who she told. She told somebody, and then the teacher gets like fired or whatever, and then Tristan gets like mad at her, and then that was just kind of like the end of that. But I feel like they should have done more like of like why that's bad, because I do feel like a lot of people don't understand like why that's bad. And then plus like early on in the show when I think Paige was dating it was like the driving instructor, and then that was just kind of like a storyline that it wasn't really presented as like bad or creepy thing that it really is, you know. So I feel like
Yeah.
the show should have handled both those storylines, like a lot better because they don't really explain like why these things are bad or abusive or anything. All right, I think that's it. Thank you guys for joining me. Do you guys have any like? Because I know Cutter, you have your YouTube channel. Do you want to plug that?
Absolutely, I can. Well, my YouTube channel is, of course, Cutter Historical. That's capital CUTTER, capital HISTORICAL. I do a lot of Degrassi videos. If I may plug some playlists, you can go to the one is called Degrassi Shooting and Other Degrassiisms. That's basically the main playlist for my Degrassi stuff. I've also made offshoots like the playlist Whatever It Takes. It's about the Rick Murray situation, and I basically try to analytically talk about that. And I also do a playlist called Degrassi Unpopular Opinions, when I talk about what I think of certain situations, and that's pretty much it.
Degrassi hot takes. Oof.
Well, in a sense, yes.
Thank you guys for joining me. I appreciate it.